I'm Dutch, and let's react to the Americans. Hello, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Johan. I'm a typical Dutchman, and I often react to videos about the differences between Europe and the United States. Where are these misunderstandings coming from? And to learn from it, I look at the differences in everything about life in the United States versus the Netherlands or the entire Europe continent. And for today, I'm not going to react to a new video, but I want to show you the differences between the education systems of the United States and the Netherlands in this case, to show up how they differ in costs. How education works in the Netherlands and the cost from primary school until the university.
Back to school, back to school.
And of course, we start at the primary school. Primary school is for everyone the same. It's starting when you are the right age. So in the Netherlands, your starting age is at 4 if you want to, but you have to from the age of 5. That's when you have to do. And the primary school is the same as primary school K5 in the United States. That's why I put it in a light red color. That's the part of the United States. And in the Netherlands, we also call this the primary school. It's in school education of 8 years of general education plus your first foreign language. Probably, most likely, English. There is no tutoration, there's no cost. There's a voluntary contribution to the school for trips to amusement parks or to museums, so there's a voluntary contribution. The books and the materials are all free. Parents receive at that time still child benefits, and that is what we called the child allowance, kinderbijslag. And the child allowance is 280 euros per quarter until the age of 6, and 340 euro per quarter until the age of 11. And that's not only for school, for the education of your kid, but also what extra cost it brings a young kid with diapers, a lot of diapers, new clothing every 2 months. It needs a bicycle, you need a seat for in your car, all kinds of costs that comes with having a child and growing up a child, that is paid by the government with 280, and later on until the age of 11, 340 euros. And if you're a single mother or a single dad, then you have not enough income, then you get an extra budget. That's what we call kindgebonden budget, but that is based on your income, and it could go up to a total price of 9,000 euros a year from the government. But let's move on to the next step.
What? You failed the test, son.
Once you are through the primary school, and not you are in the final grade of your school, so you're age 11 and 12, you get to do a CITO test. It's a test to determine what are the capabilities of your child. And it's not that you have to get a test, let's say 80% of the test must be right and 90% of the test, then you're a good student. And now, everybody have to take this test, and the results nationwide are compared to each other. So there is a nationwide average of each. So we can see, okay, the nationwide average, all the kids from that age who performs this kind of a score are suitable for a different direction. The top kids go to another education form. The other kids are more theoretical. They go to that score. And so it's a test nationwide, and then it's determined how and which, compared with other students from the same age, with the same capabilities, how do they perform. But together with your teacher, you're gonna look what is the best choice for your kid. And this could be that he chooses for VMBO, it's vocational, 4 years, or HAVO, all round general education for 5 years, or it's VWO, scientific education, pre-university, and it takes 6 years to do so. But let's dive into each of them separately. Certainly we can take a look at what are the costs for each of this section.
Good morning, class.
Good morning.
So let's start with VMBO. It's vocational, so you can choose if you want to do anything like medicine or bakery or a restaurant, being a waiter or a chef, tourism or secretary or something in the electorate. All kinds of occupations you will meet, you will learn about it, you will taste it, and after you have tasted it, then you can make a better choice. I want to go for, and I'm gonna be a chef cook, or I want to be a car mechanic, or I want to be a baker. So every part, not every, but most of the occupations you can be, from plumber to IT guy, everything in between, it's been in this vocational, and your child can learn and see how he likes one and or those topics that has been in this education. It's from the ages of 12 to 16. Duration is, of course, 4 years. You learn a lot of practical skills and your occupation. There is no tuition. It's fully paid by the government. And books and materials, all materials are free. It's all cost by. And you still have your child allowance because your kid is younger than 18. So from 12 to 17 years, you get €400 from the government each quarter, again, for the education, for clothing, for the kid's bicycle, for whatever, €400 a quarter you get. Then we have HAVO. And HAVO is a general secondary education form. It's following up on the basic primary school. It's all around, but it's a lot of theoretical. And a lot of kids are always in doubt, should I do MBO and learn a trade, or should I do HAVO, what takes a year longer, and then I will go on to a HBO in this case. And depending on what your kid wants or what the CITO Test and the teacher tells you to do, but it's always a doubt, do I want to learn a trade, or do I want to have a more theoretical and higher education at this point, at the age of 12? Your child has to choose at the age of 12.
Choice. Yes, a choice.
Ages for a HAVO, you have to be ages 12 to 17. It takes 5 years. And it's an advanced general knowledge and administration skills. about all kinds of theoretical conclusions, and one or more languages are in this education part 2. There is no tuition, everything is fully paid by the government, free books and materials, and the child allowance still the same, 12 to 15, 400 a quarter.
The federal government.
Then the final part we have is VMBO, pre-university education, ages 12 to 18, duration 6 years. And this is the part that for kids who are in the upper score of the CITO. So the top 20% or so will get an advice together with the teacher to do a VMBO. And that is a 6-year education. And then you can advance directly into your higher education grade. And that's what you call in the United States a university. But in the Netherlands, it's still called HBO, a higher educational system. Duration 6 years. It's an academic track for the university-bound students, so it's all academic, no tuition, fully paid by the government, and the child allowance is still there of 400 a quarter. This is what you call middle school or high school. But then we go on to the next part of education, and then we're talking about age 16 and higher. But before that, let's take a look at something else.
Money, 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 money.
And that's the student financing. Student financing in the Netherlands is something unique in the Netherlands, but I will say unique to Europe. And I don't think that this is possible in the United States. In the United States, the loans you take for your higher grade education comes with interest between 5 to 7% loans. There is no grant if you pass. And the average debt when you finished your education is about $30,000 to $100,000. And no forgiveness unless you are in a special program. In the Netherlands, you get student finance. We call it StuFi. And in the StuFi in the Netherlands, you don't need, you have ability to loan up to €1,000 a month. If it's necessary for you, for your study, because you have a higher rent to pay or something, then you can get up to €1,000 a month loan. Supplementary, you get a grant for kids who coming from students. These are no longer kids, these are students. For students who come from low-income families, not enough money to send your kid to a higher school, then you get paid extra money from the government. This loan is a gift if you have your diploma within 10 years.
What's he saying? What's he saying?
In 10 years, then everything you have loaned and every cost you have made to finish your education, because you've got a diploma, then it's all a gift and no debt. Everything is gone. Keep on going with your life. You get a free public transport pass nationwide, I have to say, during weekdays. So from Monday to Friday, buses, trains, trams, everything is free for the student to go to his school, coming home from school, and doing other stuff even after school time, going to friends, going, I don't know, whatever you want to do, free public transport. And what often happens is that students will leave on Friday to a festival, because then it's free to travel, and they come back on Monday morning again for free, and they went for an entire weekend to a festival without having any traveling cost. The interest on the loan is less than 1%, so there's only a low interest. They have to repay, but it's based on what they actually earn. That's not, so it's not mandatory to pay X amount every month. No, we're gonna take a look at what can you pay every month, so that you won't get in more debt to pay your debt. And so it's this, and after 35 years paying back your loan, then we say, okay, you've done it for 35, we will quit you for the rest. You tried it, you did your best, but no more debt after 35 years. And when you're 25 plus the 35, so you're 60. So by the time you're 60, you don't have to pay anymore on your student finance loan. But hardly is the case that someone actually needs 35 years. This is what you can get from the government during your higher educational level. Let's take a look at that.
Because you don't pay attention in class.
The first part of this higher educational level is the higher vocational, or MBO. This is pre, and this is the real educational MBO. This is where you actually have chosen the profession you want to do. I want to be a baker, I want to be a car mechanic, I want to be an IT specialist, all be done. Then this is the education you can follow and say, this is what I want to do. And that takes another 3 to 4 years to do. The tuition for this is $357, 2025 a year, of the total almost 10,000. The rest is paid by the government. So the school gets 8 to 10,000 for each student at the school, and the student pays $1,357 that year to the government, back to the government, for his education. The student gets still his student finance, his StuFi, and there's still for the parents the child allowance until the age of 17, and then they still get $400 a quarter. So 4 quarters is $1,600, $1,300. So if you play it right, it won't cost you until your child is older than 17. And in MBO, that means that he is in the second grade of his MBO. Most students are 16 entering, 17 for the second year, and 18 for the 13th year when they graduate, and then they move on to the higher education level. You see that there is for HAVO and VMBO not yet a higher educational level there. Let's take a look at the next. If you have done one of those three, MBO, HAVO, or VMBO, you can go up to HBO, higher vocational education. It's university in the United States, but we don't call it university. We still call it the higher vocational education, HBO. And there is where those scientific education kids can do their bachelor, the academic bachelor. HAVO can do the applied bachelor, and MBO can do their associate degree, or go directly to and train for an applied bachelor. What are the costs of HBO plus university, 18 plus kids? Bachelor plus optional master, Tuition is 2,530 euros a year. The government covers the rest. In between, the total cost per student is between the 10 to 15,000, depending on which part of this HBO you are, but the government pays the rest, and you have to pay to the government 2,500. It's older than 18, so there is no child allowance, but there is still the student finance, the StuFi, for your kid to pay for all the extra costs that he or she may have, which is also this amount of 2,500 in that year. Those are the costs of an HBO. Let's go on to the final stage.
And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
The final stage is what we call the university. That's where you can go for a second master, your PhD, or your MD. But to get there from HBO, you have to do a separate bridging program, or you already must have a master to get to your second master or to get your PhD. And your PhD costs in the Netherlands are that the PhD students are university employees. So a PhD student earns money. He does not have to pay. He earns money between 2,400 and 3,200 a month. The PhD track study research is completely funded by the government with research grants or by a specific company that needs to do some research. It's completely funded, and there is no tuition, and you get paid to do the research.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That's something totally different in the United States. Let's take a look at the final slide and the final differences between the Netherlands and the US.
Graduation day, final exam.
And here we have a total view, and you can look for yourself. Bachelor, the cost of 2,500, 10,000 in public and 35,000 in private school for a year, and then it takes 4 years. A master in the Netherlands, 25 to 5,000, 2 years of course, 20,000 to 60,000 in a public schooling, and 60 to 120,000 in a private university. PhDs, you get paid, so no cost there. And then in the United States, way too expensive to do, or you must have a grant or somebody who supports you, and very expensive also in the private. If you get funded by, then you can do a PhD. Book and materials in the Netherlands often free or subsidized. In the USA, $1,200 a year for both public and private schools. Student housing between the 300 and 600 euros a month, depending on where you want to live and how near you want to live to your college. In Amsterdam, it's way higher than outside Amsterdam. In Utrecht, way higher than outside Utrecht. But you got your free public transportation, so you can go outside the bigger cities, find a cheaper student housing, and then you can go by train or by bus and save money that way. USA, 800 to 1,500 for the public schools and 1,000 to 2,000 for private schools. And I do not know exactly what the dorm prices are and when you have roommates, etc. But this is what ChatGPT gave me as the prices in the USA. Travel expensive, free in the Netherlands for students, and in the United States you have to get your own car, or you have to pay for the bus or the train tickets. That's in the United States. Average student debt after he has finished his mostly high school, so mostly HBO, before going into university or a university master, then he has 15,000 to 25,000 debt. And for the USA, you're talking about 30,000 to 100,000 or 80,000 to 200,000 when we're talking about private schooling. Yeah, 35,000 a year times 6 years for becoming a doctor. Yeah, those are very high costs of the education. And for 1 year on a private school, you have the entire education in the Netherlands, and then you're still cheaper off. In general, if we're going to take a look at the costs and how our educational system works, you see that we have a very different kind of education system. We're starting at early ages to guide the correct student qualities with the right qualities to the right branch of education, instead of putting them in one size fits all middle school and high school, but already starting at young ages looking at what is he or she capable or not capable to, and guide the student in the right educational branch. And of course, every student can switch in between, because if he doesn't like the education he's chosen for, his path that he's chosen for, they think, this is not for me, wrong occupation, I don't want to be a plumber for the rest of my life, then he can go on to a different, and only cost him a year of his student student path to switch from one to the other. And you can do several masters and bachelors if you want to, as long as you want to learn. I hope you find this information a bit helpful, comparing the United States to the education in the Netherlands. If you do, then press like for the video, and if you want to see more of these videos or me reacting to other videos about the differences, then press like to subscribe to. And if you subscribe, you can take a look at this video about a reaction of mine, and I will see you in that video.